Welcome to an enlightened hour of interactive talk. This is Guided Spirit Conversations with host Marla Goldberg. In this program, we spotlight guests from all over the globe who have helped others change their lives and will provide you with the tips, tools, and techniques that you need to help you make a difference in your own life. Now, here is Marla Goldberg.
Hi, everyone. How are you doing? I hope you're having a beautiful Thursday. I know I am. And once again, I am so excited about having today's guest. We just had the most amazing pre-conversation, and we're going to bring this into this interview. But I have Cassandra Joan Butler with me today. And Cassandra has been a noted practitioner of astrology, spiritual development, and bodywork since 1987. She's a gifted teacher and has shared her knowledge with thousands of students in a variety of settings, including 14 years of college teaching, as well as 20 years of international workshop offerings. She is a frequent guest on WNY Media and is the producer and host of her own show, Cosmic Connections. Cassandra is an ordained minister, medium, and founder of Divine Grace Fellowship Church, which blends astrological wisdom and a healing ministry. Oh, I need to hear more about that. She is the president of NCGR, or the National Council of Geocosmic Research, the Buffalo chapter. And she is based out of Williamsville, New York. In addition, Cassandra holds degrees from Cornell University and Syracuse University and is a consummate student. Welcome, Cassandra.
Great to see you, Marla. Thanks for having me. I'm really excited about our conversation.
Me too. I love what we were talking about. So I'm going to, normally I start at the beginning, but you know what? Let's talk about 2020. We're coming to the culmination. So much has happened. And I know that astrologically, energetically, there have been so many changes. So let's start with what you feel about the year.
Oh, certainly. I think most astrologers, star watchers, were anticipating 2020 as being a line in the sand, one of the most important years in our lifetimes. Because as the year began, we had the planet that represents fear, the planet that represents death and rebirth, and even the asteroid that means food, clothing, and shelter, Ceres, all piled up together in the sky. Now, when planets are together, it's called a conjunction. And this particular conjunction took place in the sign of structure, Marla, which is the social structures, governments, banking, businesses, power. It hasn't happened like this for 500 years. So the astrologers, myself included, I even did a cruise with some of my astrologer friends on January 12th. That was the first day, in retrospect, that we had the first casualty of the coronavirus.
Wow.
So we were trying to prep people. And so this theme is vibrating throughout the globe. And it's really, as I see it, a couple of themes. Being thrown into a big boiling pot of fear.
Yes.
So that all of us have to face our fears, number one. And number two, seeing the holes in that infrastructure out there, the elite, government, etc., and trying to become our own authority in any way we can through faith, intuition, prayer.
But also vigilantes. I mean, people are out there acting as vigilantes, or on the duality of it, the darker side of it as well.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah. And then the polarity. So we have this big glob of fear that we're all processing. And then simultaneously, things shifted on June 5th. Now, you might recall the weekend of June 5th was the weekend in the United States when many of the cities were ablaze in protests for George Floyd's death.
Yes. I was up in Minnesota. Not Minnesota. I was Rochester the day after he was murdered.
Were you? Did you happen to be there, or did you travel there?
I traveled. I mean, I had to be there.
Okay.
We traveled up there. I think it was on Tuesday or Wednesday. So we were in Minnesota. during that period. And what was interesting is that Friday night, I was sound asleep. I had to have a procedure, and I was sound asleep, and I was woken out of my sleep, and I was hearing somebody hitting metal, right? So it makes that thunderous sound. Mm-hmm. And I woke up, and all of a sudden, it was fascinating because there was a protest going through the center of Rochester, and because that's where Mayo is, and it's right by City Hall. But what was interesting, the people at the front, they were knocking things over and making noise and making a mess. And the people in the back, those still protesting, were picking things up, putting things back in place. And I'm watching that in total fascination, because the front of the people were doing the demolishing and the people from behind were trying to set things straight.
Wow. So you were really an eyewitness to, in some ways, ground zero of some of the protests of that particular weekend.
Yes. Yeah.
Very fascinating. See, that weekend, from an astrological point of view, delivered the entrance of what's called the nodal shift into Gemini. And we have all these beautiful signs, but when the nodes or destiny marks move into a sign, then the affairs or the issues of that particular sign has to be worked out on the collective. So it's kind of a personal, transpersonal time that began in June. Now, Gemini is about language, words. Think of the mantras connected with George Floyd, right?
Yeah.
And really, and I please understand, I'm just being an observer and interpreting through the lens of astrology. One of the horrific words he had said is, "I can't breathe."
Right.
And Gemini rules the lungs. And so all of us are kind of like in this breathless state. It's not just this individual who was murdered. It's like we're all in this gasping time in 2020 through 2021. The nodes are going to be in Gemini, and Gemini is about polarity, the trickster. Words matter, research, and being bombarded with contrary and conflicting information. So this is really a wake-up call as to how our mind is receiving and processing information.
Wow, that's a lot. And we are receiving a lot of information, and we're processing not only information, but we're processing a lot of emotions.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the emotion about survival in our gut, because Capricorn. So I like to think of two major themes to put into English, take the astrology and do English. The number one theme is survival, and how do I fit into this grounded world? Food, clothing, and shelter, my business, my ability to be human and have my needs met. That's Capricorn. And who's telling me what to do? All right, the authority. And then the contrary information about who to believe, what to believe. It's crazy making, Marla. And we're all feeling that tension. So we're also needing to, from the astrological point of view, connect with our own spirit and our own intuition, because the planet of truth, Jupiter, in 2020, was dancing with Neptune, which is the planet of spirituality, intuition.
Oh, interesting. That's fascinating. And we had the election just recently. Oh, my God. How does that play in with everything that we're talking about?
Right. Again, I default to many of my astrological colleagues out there, and I've talked to many of them. One of the messages were, if you are trying to predict the outcome of the election, good luck, because it's going to be razor thin and razor close, number one, and marked with total confusion of data again, the ballots. Yeah. Why? Mercury was retrograde on the day of the election. It went direct at, I think it was 1:50 Eastern Standard Time. But how, and I think many of your listeners may have heard the expression Mercury retrograde.
Yes.
It's that's one of those expressions that's seeped into the culture. So Mercury is the planet, the messenger of information and data points, factoids. When it's retrograde, we have to go backwards. And as we are sitting here today, There's a lot of recount going on.
Yes.
Reconsideration. And then Mercury has to go out of what's called its shadow. It's not one and done on election day.
No. We still have 3 more weeks of wind out.
I was going to give you the exact time. Well, here's my ephemeris. This is the tool of astrologers here. And then the Mercury went direct. I'll just, for musing purposes, not amusing, but to muse on this, it went retrograde at 11 degrees of Scorpio. And Scorpio is the sign that's associated with research, darkness, getting to the bottom of something. And we're seeing that as we are speaking. And then when Mercury goes direct and gets out of its shadow, it's around the 21st of November. And meanwhile, there's some simmering rage out there, not just relative to the election, but all of us are feeling this vibratory rage.
Well, that's also Mars being in retrograde.
Absolutely, dear.
So tying those two together, it's like you just don't know what's going to erupt when.
Yes. It's a wild card. It's a wild card.
It's definitely a wild card. Wow. It's a lot. And that goes direct on the 13th, but we still have an additional wind out period of 3 weeks. So that takes us, to the end of November, like the 29th or something?
Yep. Because
maybe the beginning of December?
Actually, more like the beginning of January, believe it or not.
Oh, really?
I not really know who is going to be the president in 2021 until the very beginning of January, decisively. We may have a call, but we already know as of this conversation that there will be lawsuits and so forth, and recounting, redoing, and reconsideration. So what's a poor person to do?
What is a poor person to do?
Instead of losing your mind, the call also is kind of go into one's own bubble and know that, and I don't mean this as a casual statement at all, but try to strengthen up and bolster up one's own faith. That this is all kind of a collective lesson for us to look at opposition, and trying to come to a place of synthesis.
So for the people who are, in fear, in anxiety, in depression because of the unknown, and once the decision is made, there's still a lot of unknown on how people are going to behave. Would you have any tips or techniques or suggestions on how they might be able to work through their emotions?
Yes, and this is what I really love about your show and you, Marla. You give people practical advice, things to do, right?
I try.
So I am also, thank you very much for that lovely introduction. But I have barely devoted the past 30 years of my life to learning. And now I hope to distill a lot of my wonderful teachers in an astrological packaging. So there's something called Universal Healing Protocol, which is something I've developed using the astrology with TCM, traditional Chinese medicine. And there's some techniques any one of us can do to kind of quell and calm our nerves. And one of them is placing fingertips right here. It's kind of hard to do.
Like right in this area?
Yeah.
There's a soft spot, right? There's a soft spot like right here?
Yes. Look, find your clavicle. You're absolutely right. And go beneath the clavicle right where it's soft and it hurts on everybody.
Yeah.
And these points will help quell grief because half of us are going to be in grief.
Yes.
I mean, this is a razor. I mean, maybe half the world.
I wish I had this 4 years ago.
As a massage therapist. So you want to pulse. It's right below the clavicle or collarbone. And then it's right here where the first rib is. And pulse that and pulse that and pulse that. That will maybe even bring up a coughing fit with some of us. Remember, this is a lungs year.
Oh,
think about in terms of COVID.
Yes.
In terms of George Floyd, I can't breathe. Think in terms of Gemini North Node. We have to quell our fear. and working that will be very helpful. And another one is to create a sense of safety, is just lightly tap right here. This is called kidney points. I call it the Tarzan tap.
And you do this in Qigong as well?
Probably, yes. I'm not an expert in Qigong. Yeah.
Yeah. Because they give you all these different tapping points to get your energy going and to open up your lungs and whatever. And yeah, it's fascinating. And it works.
Yes, it does. We're trying to do some self-healing on ourselves, because the worst stress in the world is not having agency or control or absolute certainty. Think about that, right? Of anything,
It's true.
We're learning how to quell those fears.
And it's comforting yourself during these times. It's almost like swaddling yourself, but instead of swaddling with a blanket, you're doing tapping points that will bring you some comfort and relief from the emotions you're feeling. And this would work for anxiety, just general anxiety or depression too.
Yes. I know I don't have one yet, but what you just mentioned makes me think of, there's something called weighted blankets that people can buy.
Yes.
We want to put weight and focus, and a lot of times when I lead meditations, I do a lot of meditation work. I always have people hug themselves when they're coming out of their meditation to actually feel their groundedness within themselves.
I like that. I never thought of coming out of meditation and hugging myself. Usually I come out of meditation, I have to go do something. So it's like,
like the bell on the meditation things, and like, oh,
I'm done. Something like that. Yeah. But no, I like that idea of wrapping yourself. I was looking at a weighted blanket and I was thinking to myself, is that uncomfortable? I don't know. I know a lot of people love it, but I would think it would make you really warm.
I can't speak of it either, but we maybe think of that, because that's a whole other information. Some people have to have their feet exposed when they're sleeping or whatever.
It's true. Cassandra, let's hang on here. I'm sorry. We're going to go to a break. We'll be right back, and we're going to pick up where we left off. Stay.
Voice America is on your favorite smart speaker. If you have Alexa or Google Home, go ahead and give us a try.
Hey Alexa, play Finding Your Frequency podcast on TuneIn.
Do you find that your journey to loving yourself is taking a long time? Here's your shortcut. Read Marla Goldberg's book, My Long Journey to Loving Myself, a guide to a shorter path to learn to live a more self-loving life. Order on Amazon or MarlaGoldberrg.com. That's Marla, GoldBerrg.com. Have you ever wanted to scream, but you couldn't because of all the people who might hear you? Now, we have your answer. The original Scream Pillow. It can be used at work, the bathroom, in the closet, or anywhere you want to scream and not have everyone know what you're screaming about. Order yours today at MarlaGoldberrg.com. That's Marla, GoldBerrg.com.
It's your world. Motivate, change, succeed. VoiceAmericaEmpowerment.com.
You are listening to Guided Spirit Conversations. To reach Marla Goldberg or her guest today, you're invited to call into the program at 1-888-346-9141. That's 1-888-346-9141. If you'd rather send an email, the address is guidedspiritconversations@gmail.com. Now, back to this week's program.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for sticking around. So to remind you, if you just tuned in, I am talking to Cassandra Joan Butler. And Cassandra is a noted astrologer. She is a spiritual development worker and a body worker. She's been doing this since 1987. She is a gifted teacher and has taught thousands of people various techniques that she owns herself. She's also the host and producer of Cosmic Connection radio show. She is the ordained minister, medium, and founder of Divine Grace Fellowship Church, which blends astrological wisdom and healing ministry, as well as the president of NCGR, which is the National Council of Geocosmic Research. Welcome back, Cassandra.
Thank you so much, Marla, for that lovely introduction. I want to say so much about my gratitude to you for doing what you do, because you're really bringing perspective to our world in so many ways. So I want to salute your integrating so many different wonderful guests and your own personal work, because we're all in this together.
Well, thank you for the acknowledgement. I appreciate it. And we are in this together, which we were talking about on the break.
Yep.
And so one of the things we were talking about was breath work.
Yes, ma'am.
And how breath work helps on so many levels, physical, mental, spiritual. Mm-hmm. And I know we wanted to elaborate more on that.
Yes. So as an aside, I think your listeners might be interested in another little piece of what I've done in the past couple of years. I brought mindful meditation first time into the Buffalo school system to work with students who had post-traumatic stress. 95% of the students I was working with had come from war-torn areas. They embody stress. So they were in the front lines in, say, Africa and other places across the globe. And Buffalo is a very strong immigrant town. So anyway, they brought me in to teach these children who've been absolutely traumatized by what they've seen, heard, and done. And so the meditation techniques, I think everyone's aware and very familiar with mindful meditation, but I want to share some techniques on how to go a little deeper with your meditations. We already talked a little bit about this, the points here.
Which are right by the clavicles, just underneath the clavicles.
But placing a hand on top of the crown chakra and on the abdomen, on the solar plexus, and bringing in the air as deeply as possible, especially this year, basically is telling your body that you are connected with divine source, and you can neutralize and ground and center and neutralize your fear, basically. So breathing in as deeply as possible, holding the breath as long as possible, the square breathing, and then reverse the hands. And doing this as part of your own personal practice. Tying this in again to this very unique year when the North Node is in Gemini, the breath is how we stay attached to this plane or this planet. You know, what do we say when someone expires or dies? We say their last breath was, or astrologers recognize the first breath of life, which is when we start the chart. So I can't emphasize enough that deep breaths can neutralize fear, which is the other part of 2020. And so I think maybe the silver lining in so much fear that we've had to experience is that a lot of people were sheltering in place, maybe doing more of their spiritual practices, doing more meditation, deep breathing. In my travels, that's what I've heard from a lot of people.
I believe it's true. I think a lot of people have really gone more spiritual because it's a tool that they can use. Meditation, mindfulness, even, other kind of meditations, moving meditations, while you're walking, just because they're so overwhelmed by everything that's going on. And look, this is enough to make your head spin. Between the COVID and, that alone is enough to make your head spin. Forget the election, but the election on top of it, then post-election and all the upset, plus all the poor individuals who have lost their life in such tragic ways, and there have been such riots about it and such unrest. Mm-hmm. Downtown Chicago, they were looting and they were breaking, which makes absolutely no sense to me. And my husband was in Kenosha when that whole debacle was going on, and they were burning down the buildings. And I mean, people were coming in making Molotov cocktails and just burning. They didn't care what they say they care. They're fighting for Black Lives Matter. But, there was a gentleman, an African-American black man, who said, "Don't burn down my store." He was in front of the store and he was begging them, "Don't burn down my store. It's taken me 40 years. This is 40 years of my life." And they burnt it down. So this is, to me, that doesn't make any sense whatsoever. And when they say, "Oh, this is Black Lives Matter," and they're rioting against it. No, this is a personal agenda, in my opinion. It's not, fighting to be heard, because
totally
you wouldn't
agree
have
with
done
you.
that.
I totally agree with you. I think in so many ways, there's a lot of undercover darkness that we're all trying to process and trying to understand, because I'm going to just tie this into the astrology piece once again. Everything has a chart, including the United States. See?
Yes.
So when the U.S. was formed in 1776 we know historically at least a third of the founding fathers were Masons, and you have to be a card-carrying astrologer to be a Mason. I mean, astrology, if you go on the Masonic websites anywhere, you have to learn astrology. Astrology is a universal language. So we know with great authority that George Washington, Jefferson, John Hancock were Masons who used astrology, Benjamin Franklin. So they designed a chart, which is this amazing entity that's never been before experienced on the planet through spiritual principles. And there's 3 parts of the United States: the warm and fuzzy Cancerian part, which is the breadbasket, the kindness and the caring and the sensitivity. That's the Cancer sun. The Sagittarius rising, which is liberty, sovereignty, the ability to practice and say what you want to say. Our Bill of Rights is Sagittarius. And then the Aquarius part, the Aquarius moon. And these 3 signs don't all get along with each other. They're all different. They're different. In astrology, that's called a yod that's formed.
Okay.
When I saw this, I was blown away. I thought, these guys weren't just astrologers. They were brilliant because they wanted to have 3 parts. Now, the Aquarius part of our nation, the moon in Aquarius, represents unity of all people. This is why the old word was a melting pot. This was, and the history of the United States, of course, is fraught with abuse and difficulty and imperialism, as is every country.
Yes.
But it's a country of papers and rules and ideas, and those have a purity in their development. So at any given time, when we look at the wheel of the United States, we have, this speaks to the riots and the looting and so forth. We also have a wound or a shadow part of the United States, and that's its Chiron. Some of your listeners may be familiar with the asteroid Chiron. It's called the wounded healer. In my chart, in your chart, in everyone's chart, it comes alive when we're around 50 years of age. When we come face to face with our personal shadow side and we try to do healing work on ourselves. And in my case, my Chiron was in my house of romance. I had a terrible breakup at that point, you see. So what really is going to wound us, we have to kind of balance out. So the wound in the United States is in Aries, Chiron's in Aries, in the 4th house of home property. Aries is a fire sign. That's the other message of 2020. We have Chiron returning to where it was at the birthday of the United States, 1776. The last time we had this level of looting and riots on the streets in our homes was in 1968.
Yes.
Okay. So it's like what comes around goes around. So it's like there's eruption of inequalities, but it goes deeper than that. And that's the other aspects. Who's behind all of this horrific tearing down? It's not necessarily, and we've seen this, it's not necessarily the local African Americans who are rightfully so, angry about George Floyd's death, there may be other factors and forces that are doing this horrific destruction using fire, the Molotov cocktails and burning things down, because Aries is a fire sign, and it's being activated in our U.S.'s chart in the house of home, in our security. I mean, whole neighborhoods have been torn down.
I know. It's heartbreaking. It's heartbreaking for the innocent people who are affected, though they weren't a part of any of this. And they're just collateral damage. And it's horrible that they have to have anything. But as I say, the other side of that is, you know what? You may have lost memories or whatever, but if you have your life and you have your health, you can make new memories. You can move forward and start again. It doesn't take away the pain of being violated and all the things that go along with it, and maybe pictures or jewelry or whatever it might be. But if you still have your health, you have the ability to move forward and make it even better than it was.
Exactly. And what you just mentioned reminds me of the image or symbol of the phoenix, of rising again, right?
Yeah.
And, that is the underbelly in the U.S.'s chart as well. A lot of scorpionic energy that kind of feeds our happy-go-lucky Sagittarius rising sign. Scorpio is the sign of death and resurrection, another theme that we are seeing in 2020.
Yes.
I mean, what's the ultimate fear, friends? It's death. And so the specter of death planet next to manipulation and control, we're all processing that as we look at the COVID crisis.
And there's been a lot of death of, there's death of the life as we knew it because of COVID. Well, because of more than just COVID, just because of the way our country has been led. It's different. I mean, there's a new, what's the term? There's a new way of life. Even though we feel like it's the same, it's not. COVID brought huge changes to all of our lives. Nobody, and it doesn't pick out a race or a religion or a financial demographic. It hits everyone. It does not discriminate. No. And it's one way or another, we're all affected.
Yeah. I heard an expression, just shared universal fear and shared. What's unifying us is our shared experience of difficulty. So that can open up our shared humanity and our compassion.
I just heard about people are becoming kinder to other people. Not everyone, but, people in high rises, people in city are more considerate of other people than they were, let's say, 10 years ago, when they were still stuck in, we're still stuck into a point. The 80s started it, the 90s built it, the me, narcissistic, accumulating people, humans. And now people are trying to be more, I think, like you said earlier, caring, compassionate about what somebody else might be dealing with or going through. And again, it's not everyone, but.
Yep. No, I agree with that. I agree with that we're on. Again, it was really cool about the astrology that there's different cycles that come up. Looking forward, there's another planet in the mix. I just want to talk a little bit about Uranus affecting all of us. So Uranus is the planet of surprise, awakening, being awoke, the Great Awakening. People have heard those expressions. Uranus is in the sign of Taurus, first time in 84 years.
Wow. So
Taurus represents money, values, definitely values, and matter, food, and love. It went into Uranus in 2018 in May, and it's going to be there for the next 5 years from now. And so it's like a shakeup of what our values are. I mean, is more money really what it's all about? the currencies are definitely going to be changing in the next 5 years, I would say. But as some deep notion of trying to find our truth through unexpected changes and unexpected difficulties. This Uranus was activated and magnetized on Halloween this year, because on Halloween, people probably noticed we had a blue moon, we had a full moon.
We did.
So we had Uranus on top of that full moon, and Uranus says, expect the unexpected. Hence, the election occurred during this expect the unexpected cycle. So that's also adding to the tension and the pressure and the stress on our Taurus parts of our charts, and the Taurus parts of who we are. Our values are being shaken up.
Oh, interesting. Let's hold a second here. We've got to go to a break, but we'll be right back. Please.
Friend on Facebook. Post your thoughts about our shows and network on our timeline. Visit facebook.com/Voice America.
Have you ever wanted to scream, but you couldn't because of all the people who might hear you? Now, we have your answer. The original Scream Pillow. It can be used at work, the bathroom, in the closet, or anywhere you want to scream and not have everyone know what you're screaming about. Order yours today at MarlaGoldberrg.com. That's Marla, GoldBerrg.com. Do you find that your journey to loving yourself is taking a long time? Here's your shortcut. Read Marla Goldberg's book, My Long Journey to Loving Myself, a guide to a shorter path to learn to live a more self-loving life. Order on Amazon or MarlaGoldberrg.com. That's Marla, GoldBerrg.com.
It's your world. Motivate, change, succeed. VoiceAmericaEmpowerment.com.
You are listening to Guided Spirit Conversations. To reach Marla Goldberg or her guest today, you're invited to call into the program at 1-888-346-9141. That's 1-888-346-9141. If you'd rather send an email, the address is guidedspiritconversations@gmail.com. Now, back to this week's program.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back. Well, if you've just tuned in, I am talking to Cassandra Joan Butler. Cassandra is a noted practitioner of astrology, spiritual development, and bodywork since 1987. In addition, she's a gifted teacher and has shared her knowledge with thousands of students in a variety of settings, including 14 years of college teaching, as well as 20 years of international workshop offerings. Welcome back, Cassandra. I know this last segment is a little limited. It's always so great to have you. And I know I'm going to have you back because there's so much information we know we're not going to get to that I'm extending the invitation even before the show is over.
Gratefully accepted. I love working with you.
Thank you. So it's charity shout out time. And so this is the time we put a spotlight on my guest's charity of choice. And yours is the Buffalo City Mission Organization.
Exactly.
Let's talk about the mission and where it needs help and how people can help.
Sure. You know, I think in my own, originally, people are going to say I must be ancient, like 100 years old, because I have all these different credentials. But my initial interest was in social work. And so I have a degree in social work from Cornell. So part of my work as a very young woman was working with homeless people and people who had a difficult patch in life. And sometimes that homelessness comes from being incarcerated, being left out of prison, maybe, a nonviolent situation. Where do they go? At the Buffalo, New York City, there's a beautiful place called the Buffalo City Mission. They offer support. They offer meals. They offer shelter. Yes, it's a mission, so they offer hope. They help people getting a job, getting a bus pass if they're down and out. They have a male and female section. It's safe. It's warm. It's a big shout out to them because they're doing wonderful work for homelessness and people who are down in their luck. It could be from drug and alcohol abuse and any number of things. Our society often throws away people in some ways. Any society has. I'm not bashing this society. So there are outreach, and this particular, it's just amazing. I've been there. My friend works on the front line there. I'm going to do a shout out to her, Diane. And she has seen miracles happen, that they actually help people reinvest in themselves with dignity and hope.
It sounds like they also help them build up their self-esteem and confidence, which is so necessary when starting over.
Yeah.
Usually when you're kicked down, you don't have that. So,
right.
Kudos to them. So to reach out to the Buffalo City Mission, it's buffalocitymission.org. Yes. Check it out. See, I'm sure on the website you'll see how you can donate, how you can support. If you're in the Buffalo area, you might want to give time. It sounds like they do fabulous work.
They do. Yeah.
So I wanted to move on. I know we were talking about the spiritual signs and their largest challenges of the year. Is that what did you wanted to share?
Sure. Yes. Again, to preface 2020, my friends, we're not going to live through another 2020 unless you're 500 years old. Okay. This only happens every 500 years. It's an opportunity and a crisis at the same time. and all of us are transforming. And we have to, the operative thing is, what area of your life have you been working to heal your fear and ultimately be your own authority of your life? Yes, the world could be crashing down around you, but what can you do to nurture yourself, keep yourself safe, keep yourself spiritual, keep yourself aligned, and keep yourself compassionately open-hearted, and try to get beyond the discord of polarity. That's the other big, big message.
Yes.
Yeah. So if you, I can go through all the signs. I'll just is that okay? Yeah.
Yes, okay. Sure.
Fabulous. So many of you know your rising sign.
I'll keep an eye on the clock.
Okay. This won't take too long. I just want to make sure that we're staying within the time limits. If you're an Aries or Aries rising, this is the year for you to take the risk to step into your own authority at your career. You might want to reinvent your job. I mean, Aries by nature are entrepreneurs, right? So this might be the year, because of the shutdowns and so forth, you leave your job and you start your own business. So Aries, be mindful you can crush the fear and reinvent yourself with your career. Yeah. Crush the fear about your career.
I love that.
Aries. It's a little snappy, isn't it?
It is.
For Taurus or Taurus rising people, this is the year when you can step into your own truth. Don't be afraid to speak your truth, even if your truth might not be politically correct. Do your own alignment with what you believe and what you want to teach others too. So Tauruses are stepping into an opportunity in 2020 to teach others about how they are, what uplifts them, for example. Gemini or Gemini rising. Now, this is a very profound year for you to step into your own personal authority, your own personal power. And true power is always shared. Power is not taken from another. Power empowers other people. Empowered people empower others. That's what the lesson of Gemini is this year. Okay. Share the wealth, which could be literal money or the
support,
sharing
information.
Of upliftment or information. Cancer, this is the year when you're looking at your partners and wanting to readjust and transform and allow the fear to leave you as you reconnect in a more powerful way with the people that matter most. So there might be a beginning or an ending of a partnership for our Cancer brothers and sisters. For Leo, this is the time to take the reins and take care of yourself. Empower your physical self. If you're Leo or Leo rising, step into the tools you need to make yourself as healthy in mind, body, and spirit. You might recommit yourself to exercise or nutrition or do anything you can to really empower yourself and not be afraid regarding your health. For Virgo, it's all about you taking the lead with your creativity. empowering your own personal creativity, playing more, spending more time with kids, allowing the little muse inside to be active. For Libra or Libra rising, taking the time to empower your home. Now, I'm a Libra rising. This is kind of interesting. I had to empower my home because I had a big leak. I had a pipe break.
Oh, that's not fun.
It wasn't fun, but that's perfectly in line with 2020. So thankfully I had insurance, so I had to redo my kitchen. So that is a symbol for me personally, but for all you Libras out there, redo the foundations of your life, your family, and don't be afraid, move through it. If you're Scorpio rising or Scorpio, it's about your message, your words, your writing, your speaking, your mind, redoing and allowing the fear to leave you regarding how you are communicating.
That's my rising.
That's my sun sign, so that makes sense. It's so funny. Sagittarius or Sagittarius rising, this is about the second house or working with your own personal values, embracing new avenues for income, and putting your money where your mouth is. So it's also truth finding. Sagittarius is getting to the truth of who they are and their own personal values. Okay.
I agree with that.
Good. And then we have our beautiful Capricorn, all spotlight on the Capricorn or Capricorn rising, transforming mind, body, and spirit, inside, upside, with relationships and identity and career. So because everything's lined up in Capricorn, really go to the essence and in the personal point of who you are in the deepest way. Let go of the fear, Capricorn. For Aquarius or Aquarius rising, let go of the fear of fear. So Aquarius is usually a very logical sign, but this is the year they may have a lot more anxiety, a lot more boogeyman stuff. Like I can't control something. So they're being asked to realign the fear of the unknown and allow the fear of the unknown not to rule them. Pisces, letting go and transforming friendships, associations. It's okay to say no, Pisces. It's okay to say, we've had a great run, best friend, but now it's time to be with new people and put boundaries in a new way. That's for our Pisces friends. So that's just a little snapshot of some of the alchemical astrological transformation of 2020.
And you know what I've heard throughout the whole thing? There is a theme. The theme I heard, and you could correct me if I'm not right, but is letting go of fear. Learning how to let go of fear. That is the theme. And I always say, once you get through that veil of fear, you'll find once you're on the other side, you're amazed at how much better it is than where you were. You know, everybody, in my opinion, likes to be with the familiar. You know, they know the devil they know rather than the devil they don't.
Yep.
And so they stay stuck. Mm-hmm. And this is saying, don't stay stuck. Go through that veil of fear. Go and address whatever needs to be addressed. And don't worry about the outcome, that you're going to fail, because there is no failure. Mm-hmm. It's only stepping stones to growth and learning.
Absolutely. My thoughts exactly, Marla. Absolutely.
Yeah. So it's, I'm glad we're good on that you agree that it's let go of fear, and it's, a great way of doing this.
Yeah, false evidence appearing real. Sure you've heard that, right?
Yes.
But one of the things about fear, you could not pick a year that's more fraught with fear. And ultimately, letting go of the need to control, the need to save the world, the need to do this, the need to do that, and get into the cellular level of awakening up to our own personal infinite realm of possibilities by connecting to the spirit of your understanding. I always like to put that in there. I'm not an evangelist. I have a church, but my church is non-denominational. And the idea is by allowing yourself to be led and not to feel like you're solo and out there swinging in the wind. There is a divine, I would use the word guidance. And that's how I use the astrology. It's not a religion, it's guidance.
Is your ministry online?
Yes.
Let's tell everybody where they can tune into your ministry.
I have a Facebook page. It's just called Divine Grace Fellowship. And we used to meet in person, right? I used to rent a church. I used to rent a Unitarian church. They are not available right now because of COVID. So we meet on the last Sunday of the month, maybe more as we go through these perilous and challenging times. We do meditation, we do mediumship, we do healing. And it's open to everybody.
I'm going to have to sign up so I get the notices on that.
Yes.
Well, I can't believe the show is coming where we have to wrap it up. Cassandra, you are such a pleasure. And we have so much more to say. So I'm going to get you back on the books and have you back because you're just wonderful. If you want to find out more about Cassandra, www.cassandraastrology.com. It's very easy, cassandraastrology.com. If you want to write to Cassandra, cassandra.astrology@gmail.com. And you can always text her at 716-812-5776.
Yes.
So check out this woman. She is phenomenal. She has a lot to offer, and she will be able to teach you. I mean, she is the consummate teacher and student, and be able to teach you such a great deal, whether it be astrology, spiritual development, or ways to release in her body work. So again,
Marla, you're an absolute light in this world. So I want to thank you too.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm honored. And I want to thank everyone at Voice America for all you do for me. I'm so grateful every week getting my show up and out. And Bridget, my assistant, my right hand, my left hand, so grateful for you. Thank you. I really appreciate you. Well, I just want to make a couple of quick announcements. The crowdfunding page for the Global Consciousness Development Circle is launched. You can find it at https://igg.me/at/GCDC. And if you don't know what the Global Consciousness Development Circle is, it is the definitive online platform for personal growth and development. So check it out. We're going to be launching shortly, but we've got the crowdfunding page going now. We've got the most preeminent teachers, the most phenomenal community, and the greatest offerings that can be given in our capacity. So please tune in, go check out our Indiegogo crowdfunding page, and I hope you'll contribute. We offer great perks in exchange for the contribution. I also want to say, please be socially considerate. The numbers are still rising. You're doing yourself a favor, you're doing somebody else a favor by being aware of yourself or of what they might be going through, because you don't know if they have somebody in their household that has autoimmune issues, or if they have to deal with a parent or grandparent and they're elder or in questionable health. You don't want to bring this to them. So please continue wearing your masks. And till the next time, as always, I send you love, I send you blessings, and I send you gratitude. Thank you so much for taking the time.